Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. With over 1,000 NCAA commitments, the EHL is the proven path to college. Turn it up and learn more about the college placement leader at the Division II and III levels.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, we take care of our own, as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 87 of the E-Show. And on this week's episode, we cross off the final Team of the Week feature of the offseason as we highlight the New Jersey 87's. This fall marks the 5th year for a program that started at just the EHLP level back in 2017. Throughout their time in the league, the 87's have built an annual contender at both levels, EHL and EHLP. The hard work came to fruition with each club advancing to the Frozen Finals this past March, capped off by a championship Sunday that Adam Houli and Matthew Kiernan will never forget as they claim their first EHLP title. The last Team of the Week feature begins by taking a look back with Houli and ends with an all-time lineup as good as any the E-Crew has created to date. I'm joined now by Adam Houli, the head coach and general manager of the New Jersey 87's. How's it going, Adam?
Hey, Neil. Thanks for having me on, bud.
Thanks for coming back on, and let's jump right into it. Coming up this year, this is already season number 5 for your program. Does it feel like season number 5? No,
it doesn't. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But as we talk right now, it's crazy to think we've been in the league now for 5 years. We're almost at that 10-year mark. So, no, it doesn't feel like it. But at times it definitely feels long. But every year you get excited around this time, knowing you got camp around the corner, and you get back into the swing of things and get them ready for another year.
So when we take the folks at home through the timeline of what you've been through, your first season you were in just the EHLP, 2017-18. Year number 2, you had both levels. That was your first year in the EHL, 2018-19. Of course, we won't touch too much on it, but it ended in some disappointment for your program. And 2019-20, you come back. You were able to actually play one EHLP playoff game before COVID really hit and all the shutdowns happened. And then this past season, we were able to play everything all the way through. Both of your teams made it to the Frozen Finals. Did it feel like a huge weight off of your shoulders?
Yeah, I think for the club as a whole, just being able to finally finish a year, obviously the year we got eliminated early, certainly hurt. And we made it a goal to make sure we wanted to get our both teams to the Frozen Finals, and to be able to do it was, it was certainly a relief. But now I think it just garners even more fire and even more gasoline to that fire to want to get there and continue to do well in that tournament. But it definitely was a relief. But like we've always talked about, you have to get it wrong before you get it right. And now we know, what to look for and what to do and prepare for even a better year ahead.
And as you look back on the Frozen Finals from last year, I'm going to ask this question in a very broad perspective to hear what you have to say. Were the Frozen Finals what you expected them to be?
Yeah, yes and no. It's you never know until you're there. I think, I give kudos to, Chris and him being there so often. When we got there, it was kind of, we were feeling ourselves out a little bit, right? Understanding what we wanted to do and how the week was going to go. You prepare mentally, but you don't know until you get there, right? And that's what I mentioned earlier, having to get it wrong before you get it right. Now I think we feel comfortable if we do get the opportunity to be there again. We know what to expect, how to go about it, and be prepared in the right way for that week. So it was an awesome event, but having to do it, get it under our belt now, we look for the future to continue what we do.
So let's dive into each side of the program in particular here. First for the EHL, regular season champions. But the one thing that you said to me with the way that all of last year played itself out, you knew no matter what, once you won the regular season title, you were automatically going to the finals. That's just the way that the season played out and the at-large bid that we had. But you always said, we want to make it the right way. What did that mean to you and your program?
Yeah, I think it was everything, right? We as you said, we all ultimately knew we were going to be in that Frozen Finals, but no one has done it yet, winning the regular season and then winning the Frozen Final. And to us, that was something special. We thought we had a special group, and we did have a special group to do it. But for us, we wanted to go about it the same way, do it the right way. And again, it's not that it's the wrong way when you get there by bid, but we wanted to go through and show that we're here for a reason, and this is why we are here. So it was special for us to go through that playoffs. And listen, the playoffs got tight. Credit to Maryland and credit to the Little Flyers and Mark. They played us really well. And that's what made the year difficult, is playing the team so many times and then getting to that playoffs, and it's the best of three. Anything can happen. So it was certainly a relief for us to do that and get to that final point.
And then you get there with the EHL team. One of my favorite parts about a round robin is it's never over until it's over. And all four teams ended up having a chance to make it to the championship game on that last day. You played an arguably probably the most entertaining game of the week against the Lumberjacks. And there was a moment in that game where there could have been a potential double goalie pull. And you and James Mosso from the Lumberjacks looked at each other and kind of had a word back and forth. What was said in that moment?
You can kind of put it together what you just said. Do we both go pull and go from it? Part of the reason, again, I thought we were in a better situation. He needed to at that point get tied up. We were up by a goal. And I didn't want to take away from the quality and the process that the other teams were doing. I think when one team pulls a goalie, it's strategic and it's an advantage. I just felt like, for us at that point, if I were to do it, I didn't want to take away from anything in that given moment. So I kind of give Jimmy the feel free to do it. We'll certainly help. We certainly want you to do it. But we're going to hold off here and try to do it and go get the next goal, no matter, what the situation may be.
It felt like an awkward pause at that moment in the rink. And obviously it didn't happen, but you went on to win that game. And that meant that every single one of the four teams in the finals won a game. What does that say about the overall competition level of the league?
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing. The parity in that Frozen Finals was tremendous. Listen, you'll hear it a lot, right? The elephant in the room is the North is the North and the South is the South. But when we got to the Frozen Finals, I think we really showed what South is and the style of hockey we play. I think analytically, if you were to look at those reports, I think we come out on the good side in most of those games there. So from that standpoint, it was more of us letting, the guys in the North know that the South isn't just the South, and we play really good brand of hockey down here. And then it just showed in that week that, every goal was a goal game. Every goal or every game kind of swung on one moment or another. And that's just really good hockey, really good for the league. When you have a Frozen Finals be so close and so entertaining till the end. We were there till the end watching and just being a part of it because we wanted to see what happened. So just really speaks to the volumes of how close this league is, how good the hockey is, especially in the Frozen Finals when you have the best four teams there.
I remember you said that you were there. I couldn't see where you were, but then Jeff and I actually saw you standing in the staircase. Not sure if you were hiding, but you were definitely watching there till the finish. But obviously the Frozen Finals play itself out. We've mentioned on this podcast before. You and Matt Kiernan are co-owners and co-coaches. And last year it was just you two with the EHL and the EHLP team. The EHLP team arrived the night that your EHL season ended. And then the next day they got into their round robin and then ultimately went on to win the championship. How do you as a coach find a way to close the page on one team and focus primarily on that EHLP team, basically at a snap of a finger?
Yeah, that's a good question. For us, it was difficult in a sense because the EHL team, we had a lot of our players who had been with us 2 years, 3 years. So it was a very close team. It was very hard to know that the season was coming to an end. But at the end of the day, you knew you laid everything out on the line. You knew you did everything in your power to get to the weekend, and it just didn't fall in your favor. And I'll be honest, I think that the Premier guys coming in that night helped alleviate the mourning process for the EHL. They come in, smiles on their face, excited. They're pretty jacked up to get going in their weekend. So it re-energizes you to say, what, we still have a chance here to make history as a program. And like we talked about the Premier guys all year, you knew their best hockey was still ahead of them. And we thought this weekend they can really put it together, and it just happened by chance that we really did it. We put our best hockey in that weekend and we came out victorious.
Did it almost feel fitting that your first championship game at the level that you had started with way back in 2017-18? Yeah,
I think, both me and Matt, we've always talked about doing it the right way. We started in the Premier because we wanted to do it the right way. We didn't want to just say we can do something and hope and pray that we could do it. We wanted to show that we can be a good team in the Premier and make the next steps up to the EHL. So to get that first championship in our program history at our Premier team, especially as a group of owners who always talk about doing it the right way, starting in the Premier and doing it the right way, I think it was the icing on top. It was the cherry on top for us to do that. And that was where we started. That's how we got connected. That's how the 87 started, was in the Premier. So that one was certainly a very special day for us that Sunday with the trophy.
And what I like about you guys the most is that you just don't get complacent. You get to the offseason, you add an 18U program. Where was the thought process behind that?
Just to continue to do what we're doing. We're very passionate here about what we do. We love what we do. And we want to just continue that. We want to give more opportunities to players to have a chance to play hockey at the highest level. And our next thought process was adding an 18 program to bring more into our program. We've done a really good job of success from Premier to EHL, and we thought we can do it even better by adding 18s, and the goals from this point on are to continue to add. We're looking to add next year from the 16s on down. So we are looking at this as a full run operation with the 87s, and just doing it and making our stamp on it the right way. And it starts from the top down to the bottom.
And you keep saying we throughout that answer. And I've pointed out you're obviously co-owners together, but you make it a point to always talk about the team. And it's not the players, but all the staff that you have working with you guys. Can you touch on just some of those individuals that make your program so whole?
Yeah, I certainly appreciate you recognizing the we part, because obviously it's just not me and Maddie. We added about 4 or 5 to our staff, coaching wise. Justin Friedman, we brought back. Rich Havlin, who was around the rink and really wanted to be a part of it. Jason DeRoche is going to help out our 18 team. Falcone is going to be our equipment manager and our game day operations. And then we have what I think is the best off-ice crew in Anthony and Chris Russo, who really kind of run our game day audio stuff and make sure, again, Sam Gotti as our trainer. And then we have Sam there. And then obviously our Premier, we pass off to Connell. He's a guy who's going to take over our Premier program. He comes from the college ranks. So we're very excited to have him there and kind of see where he can take that program as well.
It's a staff that's almost 10, 11, 12 guys deep. And you mentioned a couple of names in there that I wanted to bring up, because for those that have been paying a lot of attention this offseason, I announced Anthony DiPaolo as our new beat writer for the league, obviously still working for you guys as well. But what does that mean to your program to have a individual who's also kind of taking his talents to the league level, if you will?
Yeah, and that's something we always preach. That is the goal here as well. Obviously we want people who are a part of it to move on to greater and better. That's what we've always talked about with our players, and the same for our staff. So for Anthony, I know he's a tremendous asset to us, and he's only going to help our league even more. And that's the goal, right? We are good team league guys down here. And we want to make sure the league continues to move in the right direction. And Anthony is a phenomenal part of that. He really does his homework. So super exciting for him to do that. We were very excited when it was announced that he was going to be doing that and moving forward. So, we certainly preach what we practice, and we make sure that we want our players moving forward, and certainly our staff as well, because of everything that they do, we're very appreciative of their efforts.
And those are the key words there, to move on. And last year, when you look back on your EHL team, the 14 commitments that you have, obviously you're so proud of every single one of those kids, but how do you kind of reset and fill those spots that are left behind?
Yeah, I think, we never look at it as rebuilding, even though, I've heard that term thrown around in the league right now about us down here in the South. But, for us, we never are in a rebuild mode. Our rebuild is something that we did in our first year for our Premier team. And from this point on, we do a really good job of making sure we're adding the right pieces, we're promoting the right pieces. And it's really more just us kind of finding our team identity in our camp and what style we want to do. I think we averaged, over 5 goals last year, first in the league there. Will we be the same this year? We don't know yet, right? That's the fun part about camp, is finding your identity. I do know that I do feel that our team is as strong in a depth-wise sense as it's ever been. I'm excited to see some of our new players step into some roles and see what they can do. So I'm pretty excited. I know. But you always have that little smirk on your face when you get ready for training camp, knowing that you have a good team coming in. And you just can't wait to get started.
And maybe this is an easy answer because of what your EHLP team was able to accomplish last year, winning your first championship. But is the goal as simple for the EHL as championship or bust?
I think from their standpoint, that's how they're going to look at it. I think, for us, it's always, again, we want them to be placed into college. We want them moving to the next pasture for us. But I wouldn't be, I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that that is our goal. And I think it goes a little bit further. I think when you're a champion, it's because you've done it the right way. You prepared the right way. And if you've had that preparation, your players are going to be taken care of, right? So if we find ourselves on that Sunday playing in the championship game, I can almost guarantee that all of our players will have found homes where they want to find homes, and it's because of that preparation. So, I think for us, it is championship or not, but there's some deeper meaning into why we think that way, and I think ultimately that's what we're here is we want our players playing at the NCAA level, and if we do that, we're going to be finding ourselves playing on that championship Sunday.
And I know I got to ask you this question during the week of, but it was such a whirlwind with how quickly it all came and went. You got named the coach of the year while we were at the Frozen Finals. Now that some time has passed, how long did it take for you to really set in that you had won that honor?
I don't even know if it really settles in when you win that. Obviously, to me, that's completely done by, my staff, from my coaches and trainers and things like that to my players who perform. You just try to make sure that you're leading in the right direction. You're doing it the right way. And you hope that they see it that way, and then they take care of you and producing wins and getting notice, and you take over from that. So it was nice to certainly be recognized, but to me, again, I think it was a culmination of our organization being recognized. I think that's the bigger thing for me is that when we win awards, it's the 87's that are winning awards, and the players are just usually the beneficiary of that. So it was nice from that standpoint to be recognized.
And it's an accomplishment for what you've done in a short amount of time. Like we started with this beginning of this interview. It doesn't feel like it's going to be season number 5, but it's going to be season number 5 for you guys. So before I bring Jeff in and we start to put together this all-time lineup for the 87's, there's been so many good players that have come and gone over the years. It's going to be hard to put this lineup together, but there's a few that I think you and I both know will definitely be on this roster. So I want to talk about some of those individuals. First and foremost, Tim Debord, who was a part of your program each of the 3 years you've been at the EHL level. To see him come all the way through and then get his commitment, what did that mean to you and to Maddie?
Yeah, I mean, that was everything for us. Tim was a very special human being off the ice and on the ice. He was a tremendous asset to everything we did. So when he finally was going to school that he was super excited about and is going to be a big part of things in what they do, that was just honestly, it's almost a teary moment because you're just really so happy. They deserve everything they got, and Tim deserved everything that he got. He did everything the right way, and he always led by example. So for us, just to see that part kind of come to fruition and him commit was everything. And he deserves everything that's going to come his way. He's going to work his butt off in college, and he's going to be a part of a really good team there. And I think they're going to be something special in the next 4 years.
And they got not one, but 2 87's coming their way. That's Lawrence University. And the other 87 is Dante Terramani. When you guys first started recruiting him, did you envision a player that had the potential to win both the Rookie of the Year 1 year and then the MVP award the following year?
It's tough to say. I don't know if we can envision because, again, knowing what the league could have, that he's going to be a guy who wins that award. We knew we had a special player coming. I think we were more shocked that he wasn't talking to more teams, and that got us excited to get him here in New Jersey. And then the second he takes the ice, there's a special player there. And then as the year goes, you could just see it formulating in his first year. And then last year, by the middle of the year, just how dominant he was in his work ethic and what he was doing on the ice. You saw something special kind of happening that he can make a run at this going Rookie of the Year and then MVP. And again, it was just, it was so him. And everything he did. And that's why that group was so special because we had the right players to do it and they were the right group to do it. And I think that's the what keeps people looking forward are players like Tim and Dante who've come through our program and have had such great success. But he was a special human both on and off the ice.
And based off their age out years, they both were able to come back this season and help you reach the Frozen Finals. The two last players I want to touch on, because we can't touch on them all right here, were Jack Lane and Trevor Sear. So those are two players that began the process with you at the EHLP level And then ultimately things were cut short for them because of the COVID season. Did it feel like what you guys accomplished this past year was for players like Jack Lane and Trevor Sear?
Yeah, I think those are our original players. Those are our what we call our OGs. But it goes further than that. I think seeing Jack and Trevor over my house now and coming to hang out and catch up when they're home, or coming to our office at the rink, sitting here and catching up about it and talking about 87's hockey and talking about players. That's when it comes to really you see the impact that you hopefully have on these players. Jack and Trevor are both players who will reach out to me during the year last year, that watch a game, ask me what I think. And you just see the tremendous relationship you develop off the ice. I think that's the biggest thing. So when we had success and them feel really happy about it, and they're rooting for your success. I mean, this year when we told them our opening day, both of them made a point to come home and come to our opening game here because they want to be a part of it. So that's when you see the real lasting effort of being an 87 and why it's so important that we have the right people. Because it's not just a couple of years of being here. It's beyond that. It's 10, 15 years down the line of being an 87.
Yeah, it's very special for sure what you guys have done in a very short amount of time. So I appreciate you coming back on the podcast. I know your training camp is starting up here pretty soon. And like I said, year number 5 for your program, year number 4 at the EHL level. And we'll see you in just about a month at the September showcase.
Sounds good, Neil. I'll talk to you then. I appreciate us having us on today and wish you guys good luck this year as well.
Thanks again to Adam Houli for coming on the podcast this week. And with that, let's bring in Jeff Mills now. And Jeff, as I always say about Adam, he's probably one of the best interviews in the league. I think all the coaches do well getting interviewed, but like he eats it up, man.
Yeah, he does. And he was one of our better interviews at Frozen Finals, I remember too. He's a very polished young man, if you will. And
yes,
he's young, and then he's also got a pedigree. He was a big hockey player himself. He was on a lot of professional maps and stuff and played in a lot of different areas. And I think that goes to show why some of these coaches that have that, professional background and stuff, why they can talk a little more and a little more freely. Matty Kiernan's another one that we love talking to too, though, right? He's awesome, and he's got a hell of a background too.
In a few years, when COVID is gone. Gone.
And we're like, what is COVID?
Like 4 or 5 years. We're gonna look back at the interviews from the award show and be like, look at us sitting next to each other with masks on. Like, because remember how tight we were trying to make sure we're all on the camera screen too.
Yep.
Oh my god, man!
And it was a little hot. We were a little sweaty in that.
That room was like, I was like, can we get an ice bath for our feet so we can kind of cool off a little bit?
I remember being like, Neil, do I need to stop for a second? Do you see sweat dripping down my forehead on the camera right now? No? Okay.
But let's put together this 87's all-time lineup. This is the last team lineup that we have to do. Coming up next week, the final episode of the quote-unquote off-season, we're going to have an all-time EHL lineup and an all-time climb the ladder EHLP to EHL lineup. So this is a lot of
anger towards that. Hey, why wasn't I on? Hey, what was
God? Like that? Like that's a tough one though. Like next week, the next week episode is gonna take us. There's no interview, obviously. We're gonna dedicate a half hour to the EHL and a half hour to the climb the ladder EHLP EHL on the college hockey. Because then after that, the following week, that's our season preview. Like this is coming like that.
And then we welcome on Anthony and Lauren. You won't have to just hear me and Neil's dulcet tones on this podcast anymore. You'll hear a couple new friendly faces and voices that we're excited to have. Excited to bring Beanie and Anthony onto this program.
When we look back on last week's episode with the Apple Core and trying to figure out which guys on the EP page played EHL, which ones didn't. The 87's, it's a lot easier, man. This is a lot easier. 87's came into the league under the eShow umbrella 2017-18, just at the EHLP level. They've only had 3 years at the EHL level. It's like crazy to think about that, right?
Why does it feel like they've been around a decade?
A decade, right? But let's start with the guy they dub as Mr. 87, Tim Debord, because he was part of each EHL team, 18-19, 19-20, 20-21. the leading scorer in 87's history when you combine playoffs with regular season, which actually, pause, we joked about this year. He didn't get his first playoff point until this year.
That's right.
Remember that?
Yep.
So
that was a good color comment.
133 points in the regular season, didn't get his 2 playoff points until this postseason, right? Crazy.
Oof.
But 120 total games, 135 total points, like just great numbers for Debord. Heading
that
off
might stick up there for a while.
It could.
That'll be.
It definitely could.
And because think about someone, I'm trying to compare him to someone like Logan Descanio. Didn't he have 170 points?
Yeah, right.
Something like that with the Lumberjacks. So that's nothing to 133 points in that amount
where
of time.
Does Debord rank on the all-time list?
Oh, funny you should ask. Let's see. He is
not in the top 10.
Sorry, Descanio was at almost 200.
This is regular season plus postseason. Remember,
okay.
So I'm sure Debord's listening to this right now and saying, "Can you not talk about my postseason?" Like it bothered me too.
It's okay.
But as I mentioned, a 3-year guy, Mr. 87, because he was part of each of the first 3 years they had an EHL team, and he's going to be teammates with my fantasy boy. Dante Taramani.
Dante met his mom and dad. He's from California. Really interesting story. Probably made it to the 87s. Really good kid, great parents. Another one of those parents that we're going to miss moving on to the next season.
And when he gets to Lawrence with Debord, he's going to be like, I don't know why you had so much trouble in the postseason. I had 9 points in 7 postseason games this past year.
I love the playoffs. Playoffs is my time, baby.
Overall, in 86 career games in the EHL, 115 total points. So Debord can say, all right, go back and play one more year then. Try and catch me.
This is nuts. What the 87s have done in this short time. I was just looking quickly on the EP page. They have almost double digits of guys that average over a point a game.
Yeah,
for a team that's been around 4 years, technically 3 years. I mean, because obviously we're doing EHL all time, but we are going to include EHLP. But look at that. You have guys average 9 or 10 guys averaging over a point per game. Wow.
They were kind of like a pair, if you will, Debord and Taramani. Mm-hmm. The next pair I want to touch on is Tarantino and Jack Lane, right?
Yes.
So Debord and Taramani played a little bit more of a skill game at times, I guess you could say, right? And not that Tarantino and Jack Lane didn't, but they'd beat you up too. Yeah, Lane was one of the toughest kids we've ever had in this league. Like, period, hands
Lane's
down.
From one of the original he's from the original 87s.
He probably wants to be called Mr. 87, right? Because he was on the original EHLP team in that 17-18 year. So Tarantino, just to tell everyone his numbers, in 85 career games in the EHL, he had 98 points. He's at UMass Dartmouth now. For Lane, as Jeff mentioned, EHLP first, 43 total, 62 points. Then EHL, 70 total with 83 points. Like, the numbers are just boom. Like, they just jump out at you with how many guys they had that just produce like crazy for this program.
And that's really cool. If you look at Lane a little deeper too, Neil, I mean, the cool thing about him is he was on the original team, right? Yeah. And then he bought into Adam and Matt's strategy with the team and their philosophies, and he came back for another year. There's no guarantee when you're starting that first year team. How do you get guys to come back when you have no real history? But someone like Jack Lane, that's a great player for their program that shows you that, hey, we got good guys, and they decided to come back because they've built a really big program down there, and they just keep getting better. And
like that's trusting the process, right? That's what it is.
Look at you, trusting the process.
Yeah, I'm
throwing
sure,
out some of their phrases.
I'm sure. Don't the 76ers say that? So Alo is going to be friggin' all over me.
Alo, what up, buddy?
It's a Philly thing. Thing. Andrew Maynard, I've talked about the All-Star team so much this offseason, players that played for Team EHL. He was possibly the best player on the 1920 Team EHL All-Star team. And I remember Pat Norton from Tufts coming up to me after the Fitchburg game and then the Salem State game. And after the Fitchburg game, Pat goes, I like this guy. And then after the Salem State game, he was like, I think I have fallen in love with Andrew Maynard.
I think he's a jumbo. I think he's ready.
And he obviously is at Tufts, as Jeff just mentioned. The Moose was the nickname, right? Like, he was so good.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
He was
Moose Maynard.
73 games, 85 points. And I remember him saying to me at one point, he's like, he's from Illinois, right? And he's like, oh, I'm telling all my friends about the EHL. Because in his mind, he was like, I was not this player that I was until I got here. And now he's at Tufts, right? And he's like a poster child of what you can become. And then, obviously the ultimate dream for all kids is to move on to play professionally, which is great. But coming out of Tufts, he's going to be fine. Like he'll have a job for like that. Like right when he gets
very good college. School for all of you at home that don't know. You have to be very smart to get in. You can't be a schlub.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll point out that my dad did go to Tufts and I didn't, but it's okay.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
Daniel Ravin, DMD, went to Tufts.
I could have followed right in those footsteps, Jeff. I could have, but I enjoy hockey more than dentistry. So
nothing wrong with that, buddy. There's nothing wrong with that. And Quinnipiac is a great school and a hard school to get into itself.
So maybe you put Maynard in the Debord and Terramani category a little bit more, because then you could put Belinsky in the Lane and Tarantino, because he kind of had that same little bit of edge to him.
I'll say a little bit of a maniac, you could say,
but like a controlled maniac, right?
Yeah,
Like I remember there was a goal he scored that helped kind of spark them in the finals.
Yes,
they were a little bit sluggish out of the gates in the finals. And then he was kind of the one that really kind of broke the ice for them. And they had
a power move that you mentioned.
Yeah, it was literally like, take it out of the corner and I'm just going to skate right at the net and put it in. And we mentioned
one of those kids that we mentioned, not a big kid. He's 170 pounds.
Oh, he did not back down though.
He played big though.
Yes. Like in 121 career games in the EHL, 104 points. Like, I'm sure there's multiple guys here that are like, if I had another year, I would catch Debord.
I easily think that. And it's just, oh man, some of these guys too, like you wonder if they could just come back. I know we've all talked about it. No one's making excuses, but last year being the COVID year, they get both teams to the finals. If you get some of those guys to come back and knock on wood, this normal season where you're playing everybody. So when you get down to the frozen finals, because we talked about that, right? I mean, Matt and Adam were not shy about it, that they played the same teams and everybody played the same teams. So when we got to the frozen finals, it was all teams that they had never seen before that season. So
yep.
I just use that talent of a roster. I don't know.
Right. And I just use the terminology poster child for a player. You could kind of say that Kei Yasuda is the same way. And hold on while I pull up the PowerPoint that I brought with me to Nashville for my presentations this year. Adam's gonna love this. He's seen it. But when I say poster child and I get to the commitment slide, like it is Kei Yasuda. Like he is on that slide. Adam once told me that that's the only slide I should be showing when I show off the PowerPoint at events, right? I was like, well, there's other parts to talk about than just the commitments, but finals and this and that. But I remember getting to this slide, and when I first showed it to Adam, I mean, shout out to Justin Squitieri for putting this PowerPoint together.
The EP himself.
Look at this. Look at
the graphic. Wow.
And it just Yasuda's story, though, I think epitomizes like what it means to get a commitment, right? Like. Yeah. Everything that he went through to commit to Connecticut College, was the leading scorer in the EHL last year with 59 points in the regular season.
Only had 3 games, I think, all year where he didn't get a point.
Right. Brittany was always like, he hasn't done anything for me lately. It's like he had a 4 assist game. Like he just goes out there and produces constantly. Right. Yep. And he's always in the position. He actually began with the Connecticut Chiefs, then worked his way over to the 87's. Throughout his EHL career, he played in 93 total games, 114 career points for him. and he's going to have an awesome career at Connecticut College. And I put him on this slide that shows off all the commitments that we've had over the years because being from Japan and then coming and just trusting what the EHL was, like just like Andrew Maynard, like Connecticut College is a damn good school academically. Like he's going to be set when his athletic career is over. And for like, look at this past year. You think he was able to go home at all this past year? Like,
no,
like that's one of those things. Like we never really think about it, I guess you could say. Like you and I, other people during the season. Like imagine being, I don't want to say stuck, but kind of locked into the location where you're at for a 7-month period.
Yeah,
like
that was a very real thing for a lot of guys in our league this year.
To still go out and produce the way that he did.
Yeah. I mean, even guys like how many Canadian guys do we have in our league right now? I mean, that's right. Somewhere we always think like, oh, it's part of North America, but borders were shut down all during COVID. You couldn't get into Canada. You'd still have trouble getting in. So, yeah, I mean, K's, they always said 2K is an unbelievable human, right? Maddie and Adam told us that he's not only a great player, but he's a great human. And that's something really, really awesome to see. And it's really cool to see these guys from different heritages like K that are making the game of hockey become a thing in their countries. It's unbelievable.
So that gives us already 7 forwards so far. And we're ripping through these forwards. So let's go Nick Swain next, because shortly after that Belinsky tally, like one of the games, he had 2 goals in that game. I can't remember which finals game it was, but I know he had two goals. And when the puck was on his stick, like he was as good a shooter as any kid in this league. There was one, maybe you'll remember this. There was one game in the finals where he was in the slot and there was a pretty good screen in front. And he just saw the exact spot in the top corner and just picked it. Maybe Lumberjacks? I'm blanking.
Think so. I know that was a crazy.
That was the game. That was the almost. That was almost the double goalie pull.
That was the oh boy. Things got weird down in Westchester. They sure did.
Round robins puts you in weird positions, right? Where you may consider a double goalie pull. But Swain,
keep everything fun, don't they?
Yes, right. Swain spent kind of the second half of the 1920 season and then the full 2021 season with the 87's in 68 career games. He had 76 career points.
Wow,
so
another one.
The points per game averages, right? Like every guy that we've mentioned so far was over a point per game.
Yep. I was saying that has to be an automatic. All those guys that are over point per game players, automatic into the lineup. Like, no questions asked.
Like, damn, man. Like,
yeah. Yep.
So let's jump back kind of the past years now, because we've covered almost every one of the kids that we just mentioned. Actually, I shouldn't say that, because Tarantino, Maynard, and Lane were not on last year's team. Imagine if they were on last year's team.
Oh man,
I kind of gave it away at times who I was pulling for down the stretch, because you made it loud and clear. You were Red Train.
I was Red Train. Cody Campbell.
Red Train underwear going. Brittany made it very clear she was all in on the Rangers.
No.
I was kind of like secretive, I guess, in the background. But kind of like a little bit of the 80s.
All guessing a little bit.
Right?
Yeah,
I did.
Wizzies, but then they got knocked out. Blue Train, then they got knocked out. You had like all these little secret teams that you liked and pulled for, but
yeah. So let's go Jack Mcdonough next. He was a captain for the 87's during the 18-19 season. And he actually was part of the Avalanche team the year before that won that championship, 17-18. Moved over to the 87's from Pennsylvania, kind of just a better fit for him for his age out year, and advanced on to Manhattanville College. But I just remember like that was their first year in the EHL. And Adam has said it before, and Matt has said it before, like he was the perfect leader for them to have in their first season at the EHL level. A player that had EHL experience, won a championship in the EHL, and kind of knew what to expect, right? And as I mentioned, now is on now is playing at Manhattanville College, a school that we've brought up with, you name it, Connor Boyce from the Rough Riders, Mason Emoff from the Lumberjacks.
Yep.
All these players have kind of just come together and become obviously new teammates there. And he was one of my favorite players during his time in this league. So I know I would be remiss to not include Jack Mcdonough on this list.
Well, that's cool too. Jumping from one expansion team to another too, that's interesting. Going from the Avs to the 87's
and there's a lot of fans listening at home saying the Avs expansion team, Jeff.
They are, everybody. They've only been around for
that was their first year, 17-18. Obviously, Chris was a coach for multiple years prior to that.
They're going into their 5th year. The league's been around for this could be our 9th year.
This is year 9 of the league. Yep.
So that would mean their expansion. If they weren't around at the original time, equals expansion.
Right.
Everybody agree at home. Say aye. Aye. Okay, great.
Aye.
Moving on.
I will now put in Trent Shanley.
Trent Shanley. That's a name I don't remember.
18-19, that same 87's team had 29 points that year for the 87's, and now is at Fitchburg State University. We actually have faced him with our all-star team in the 1920 season, which was kind of cool to see him go up against some former teammates of his. But Trent Shanley has to be on this list also, part of that original EHL team for the 87's. And we're down to 2 forwards, Jeff. I knew it would be fast with the forwards with this program, with what they've accomplished in a short amount of time.
Yeah, they made the work a little too easy for us, I almost could say. When you sent me the email last night, I was like, wow, yeah, it's just too easy to pick all these. They haven't had like a crummy player enter the organization, really. Right? No, they might say otherwise, but
I think I want to put Brian Van Ness on this list.
Okay. Another good player.
I know. Speaking of Frozen Finals goals, I remember the goal that he scored in that Lumberjacks game, the last game. Trevor Blackburn got the best angle of it.
Oh.
Remember, Belinsky was going behind the net, and before he got all the way around, he put a backhand pass across the slot, and Van Ness just did not miss. Picked his spot, and was like, "Damn, that was kind of sick."
We watched that on replay quite a few times. That was nasty.
Symmetry here, Jeff.
Symmetry.
80 games played.
80 points.
50 points.
Nice
round whole numbers.
Wasn't a point per game guy like everyone else. That's kind of hard to do, but the 87's make it look easy.
But just a solid foundational piece for Riviere to start off with this fall, right? Like one of those forwards who we're gonna look up here halfway through the college season and be like, Brian Van Ness just had a 25 point campaign for the brand new Division III program. Without a doubt.
That's another thing you notice, right? This team gets a lot of commitments. Some of these other teams, they get a lot of guys, and not just commitments, but commitments to very variety of schools. Good, very talented D2 and D3 schools. Some of these guys are very smart players, like we've seen going to Tufts and other big schools, Connecticut College, like Kay's going to. So well-rounded.
That gives us 1 forward left.
Shoot, that's hard to pick. There's a lot of good names left on this. I was just thinking about him too, of course.
The one that I opened?
Yep.
Oh, Michael Hertzberg.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of advancing on to programs going into their inaugural year at the Division III level, Hertzberg is going to Arcadia. Part of a strong class of players that's heading off there. He played as physical as anyone on the 87's. And I think he was able to set the tone for them when they needed to because of that, right? Mm-hmm. So throughout his career, he played in 64 total games and had 32 points. And I think just like Van Ness will help set the table for Riviere, I think Hertzberg will do the same thing at Arcadia.
For sure.
12 forwards, Jeff.
Done.
Next. Moving on. Should we check the time?
Yeah, was that a record for how fast we filled the forward sheet?
Defenseman. Trevor Sear. Look, I already got Trevor Sear, George Weiner, Justin
Sear,
Vickers, Dylan Gutierrez.
Like, we're done. And we're done. There's your 6 defensemen, everyone. See you next week. Bye.
Let's start with Sear. Because he actually, like Jack Lane, was part of that 17-18 EHLP team.
Yep.
And then spent 2 years as an assistant captain on the EHL team. And one of the best shots from the point that this league has had. Helped run their power play. Just to go over the numbers like we did for
left shot. Love those left shot defensemen.
For Sear, in 41 EHLP games, he had 35 points, a D. And then in 88 EHL games, he had 61 points. So, but one of the original guys that just trusted that process, and now is at UMass Dartmouth as well, and went from the very first year of the program, 17-18, and followed things right along, and didn't feel like he had to go anywhere else, and
was like Jack Lane
was paid off with his commitment.
As they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right. George Weiner,
another easy one, was
probably second place for defenseman of the year this past year, behind Johansson. A tremendous get for the Wentworth Institute of Technology. Spent 2 years with the program. Overall, had, quick math, 82 career games, 58 points. Just steady, like always in the right position as well. Yep. And like I said, for Wentworth, a team that last time we saw them play things out had advanced all the way to the CCC championship game on the back of Connor Carbo. Another from the Lumberjack.
Lumbo.
So we'll become teammates now with George Weiner, who was a leader, was a captain for this 87's team in his final year, and I'm sure he'll be the same when he gets to Wentworth.
Mm-hmm.
So do we want to, let's see here. There's 2 other D I have pulled up.
There's another couple of easy ones.
Let's go back for a second, because Justin Vickers was not a part of this past year's team. Is on the 18, 19, and 19, 20 teams. And again, on Team EHL in 2019. He was just like, when he had the puck on his stick, you didn't have to worry, right? Like you knew like he was going to make the right pass or get it out of the zone the way he needs to. Not the biggest D, 5'10", right? Not compared to the next D that we're going to highlight, but just steady at Stevenson now, which has also become a little bit of a pipeline for the 87's over the last couple of years. So,
and every team needs at least one of those, Neil, right? Out of your 6 defensemen, you got to have at least one type of Vickers type guy that can, like you said, carry it through all 3 zones and bail your team out. Maybe help some of your other players that maybe aren't as fast brain wise as you may be, if you want to put it that way, and smart player. So yeah, that's another easy one. Another may not be fancy type guy, Vickers, but a very important type guy.
So we go from the 5'10" Vickers. I know it says 6'1", but
he's bigger than that,
dude. I thank you. When the first time I saw Dylan Gutierrez, I was like, I didn't know he was that big. Like
I say, I'm 6'1". I'm between 6 and 6'1", and I'm not that tall. He's definitely taller than me.
And like, speaking of like trusting the process, he was a kid that during the 1920 season, I don't want to say got pushed down to the EHLP, but had an honest conversation with the coaching staff. It was like, we need you to play some games down there to get yourself more ready for the next level. And for some kids, that could frustrate you, right? Because maybe that means that on some other EHL teams that never happens to you. But he's like, you know what? Let's trust what the coaches are saying. I'm going to go down there. I'm going to keep developing. And then in return, he was a full EHL. It was a full-time EHL guy this past year and was one of the top 10 defensemen in the league. I think he had to be in that category. So the
coachability, you got to have coachability.
Yep. 6 EHLP games at 3 points, but overall 66 EHL games with 41. Like Taramani, another California kid, right? Yep. Which is awesome to see. The 87's get the Andrew Maynards from Illinois, the Tim Debords from Colorado, the Gutierrez and the Taramonis from California. They're bringing in kids from Kei Yasuda from Japan. They're bringing in kids from everywhere.
But that makes sense because we know Adam and Maddie love hockey. They eat, sleep, and drink. They're also co-owners, if we didn't mention that on this episode yet.
Yes.
So they have a very big vested interest, literally, in their program. So they go everywhere. And that's how you find the best team. You find guys, like you just said, California is starting to become a hotbed for hockey. You know, the West is starting to really start to show out. You get guys like Austin Matthews from Arizona. So you got to find these Gutierrez's and the Teramanis and those type of guys that are out West. Because, yeah, there's a lot of good hockey out here in New England, but there's a lot of good hockey elsewhere in this country too. That's
we haven't put a returner on the list yet for the 87's. So I think I want to put Matt Herrick here next because the coaching staff there and co-ownership staff like expects big things from Herrick this year. It's his turn to now
take someone's spot.
Be the Gutierrez, be the George Weiner, be the Trevor Sear from 2 years ago. It's Herrick's turn now as an 0-1. This past year played in 34 total games, had 22 points, a Jersey kid from right there, Jackson, New Jersey. So I think I don't want to get ahead of myself, but like he's an early candidate to be an all-star, easy candidate to be an all-star this year.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
That is we haven't wrote the word present on this list here yet.
Look at that present.
Now we're at kind of an interesting spot here because I have thought about this prior to recording the last team of the week feature. It's crazy. We got to the last one, Jeff.
We made it. We made it, buddy. We made it.
There's a player that hasn't played an EHL game yet for them, but will this year. And as I
you want to put him on this list?
Yes. So I'm going back into last year's EHLP roster, and Ben Bifer, who was the EHLP top prospect we limited it to 03 and 04. It's essentially the EHLP's version of the Rookie of the Year, right? Yep. I think that's the way you have to look at it. Yes, and like I remember talking to Maddie about him. And there were times last year where Maddie was like, he may be the best defenseman in the organization. Like,
that's scary.
Talent-wise, he may develop into the best defenseman in the organization. He's an 03. They're adding an 18 team this year. So maybe he gets the chance to play 18s and EHLP and EHL.
Yeah.
It's going to be busy. It's going to be a busy year for him.
Could be a trifecta. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? He was 17 last year. Wow. Because I remember him at the Frozen Finals. And it's Pfeiffer, because I remember Anthony DiPaolo maybe saying it's Pfeiffer, then Maddie and Houli says Pfeiffer. Ben, please help us out. Tell us how you want it to be said. Don't be shy. Tell us how to say it.
We'll let them correct us after the episode.
Right? I'm sure Anthony and Chris will send us a text real quick.
But I mean, we haven't mentioned they won the EHLP championship last year, right? So this, to me, it fits, right?
Absolutely. I like that. Outside the box type thinking there. That's
present maybe for a couple of years.
I would say 2 more years, hopefully.
So that gets us to goalies. And I think the first
really
one,
good goalies.
The first one to me, though, that really stands out is Ian Greif, because he began the year with the Avalanche, actually. And look at the numbers when he went over to the 87's in 1920. 15 games.
Stupid good.
1.38 goals against average, 939 save percentage, a 13-2 record.
5 shutouts, no big deal.
And what still is crazy about that 1920 season, the 87's, the Rangers, the Avalanche, the Lumberjacks did, but those other 3 never got a chance to play a playoff game.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it's oh my God.
That season, I know there's so many big names on all those teams. We'll never know how that season would have finished, but
we almost have to create it on NHL 21.
Do
some sort of sim because
I want to see how that was going to finish out. That is
the 3 teams I just mentioned: 87's, Avalanche, and Rangers, right? And Lumberjack, like they all thought they could have won. They
all had like just massive pieces like Greif and all those different names that we have thrown out into the ether over the last bunch of episodes that would have been huge. I mean, Greif, just looking at that, he had 5 shutouts in 15 games. So almost half of his games he had a shutout. That's unheard of.
Insane, man. It's insane. So he's locked in. And then, John Kopech, right? Leads
3-year player.
Lead 3-year guy, 41 wins. Going to Curry. 41 wins throughout his career, ranks 8th all time. So I think
this guy, but steady, right?
No, it's steady
goaltender.
Big. Like another kid that I was like, he's that big. I didn't realize he was like that tall, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that
those two have to be
like Debord, right? Like I'm sure Kopech is like, he's Mr. 87. I was here just as long, 3 years, right?
Excuse me, hello.
But like 6'1", like Gutierrez, like you're bigger than 6'1", man. Like, I know you're.
Those goalie skates, you're like 6'3". Yeah, he might be 6'3", 6'4".
But like I said, 41 wins for him throughout his career in the EHL. So I think John Kopech, without a doubt, is a lock for this roster. And we haven't even used this word yet, Jeff. Mm-hmm. What do we do with the last spot?
I was just going to say, there's a lot of D we left off this, where there's a lot of forwards we left off. I don't know. What do we just close our eyes, point at the screen? Oh, that's a good one. Like, you literally could do that. It sounds like a joke, but that's how good this team has been.
And you would feel confident in that the person that's picked, it's still someone good. Like,
yep. And there's a couple of names of guys that didn't work out with their team that moved on. One of them was we both saw a lot at the Edge last year, CT Johnson. He had a hot cup of coffee with the 87's and then moved up to the East Coast Wizards. Yep. So I mean, they had a couple of guys that are still good players in our league that didn't make it to their team because they're so deep.
Yeah. And like how Mcdonough found, I mean, it's funny, right? Like it's not that they had to get to that new team. It's just sometimes that change of scenery helps. Ian Greif, right? The change of scenery was awesome for that kid.
Right. Same as Mcdonough. I mean, Mcdonough was up in New Hampshire, and then he goes and plays in New Jersey. He's changed it. He was successful in New Hampshire, successful in New Jersey. So,
Yeah. What's funny is I'm sure Adam is gonna laugh at this section because Adam's stepson, Jake LaRusso, played a couple EHLP games for the 87's. Oh, yeah. I mean, tore it up.
So he's the one that's on the Titans?
Yes.
Is he though? Yeah, okay.
I don't know if I'll be able to find the box score this quickly, but he played.
We can throw him in as the utility guy.
It would be kind of funny.
You'd be like, wait a minute, what?
So it was the
there you go.
18-19 season.
Hat trick.
So what's funny about the hat trick is they were playing the Renegades and they were losing going into the third period. And it was like Jake went in the locker room and was like, flip the switch. I'm going to go out and just get a hat trick and win the game for this team in the third period. I don't know. I don't know if Adam would want him on this list. It would be kind of funny. Not. It would fit the utility, right? Because we have no idea what to do with that position, each roster, but it would kind of fit finding that last guy. But that was an awesome story. I remember looking at the box score.
That's funny.
I was like, oh, they're losing. Oh, they're winning.
Insert Jake LaRusso to this chat. Hello, sirs. Just going to dump a quick hattie into the back of the bucket. Thank you. Have a good day. I mean, you got Cal Coel is a huge name we haven't mentioned. All sorts of guys in this list. Kinzel.
You know what? I got it.
Player all right.
Ended up with the team.
Puts his organs on the ice.
Oh, shoot. He's tough as hell, man.
Yeah,
Jacob Crespo also going to Curry.
I like that.
With John Kopech.
Former Express.
Just to go through his career, crazy. EHLP season with Walpole, 17-18. EHL season with Walpole, 18-19. A full season in the NA with the Maine Nordiques in 1920. Yep. Began this past year with the Maine Nordiques, right? He actually has the first goal in Maine Nordiques history in the NHL. Yes.
What?
Yes.
That's crazy.
So
the beautiful state of Maine. We love the Nordiques, don't we?
You know what? That's why we're picking them, Jeff.
You son of a beep. We know why you picked Crespo. But he was someone I remember Maddie and Adam talking to us when we stayed up all those late nights, and he's a tough son of a
And they were like, when they added him in, it was right around the same deadline as the trade deadline, the roster freeze, you name it, whatever you want to call it. Like one of the best gets at that time, maybe in the history of our league, honestly. Like the impact that he had right away, 16 games, 11 points, and just played huge minutes for them on their run to the Frozen Finals.
I like that pick. Good job, Kamish.
So coming up next week, we're going to take the 16 all-time EHL lineups that we've done and put together the all-time EHL lineup of the all-time players, which can also include a few players from teams that no longer exist in the EHL. So you can count on it right now. Caden Primo will be one of the goalies. Like
yes,
he will be one of the goalies. But to narrow things down to 12, 6, and 2 plus utility for the all-time history of the EHL is going to be tough. That's going to be the first half of the episode. The second half will be an EHLP all-time lineup, but we're focusing it on EHLP players that have climbed onto the EHL and then college hockey. Because
that's a commercial that we talk about, the commercial guys.
And there are some EHLP players that haven't followed that path, that had good careers in the EHLP, but we really want to highlight the kids that have trusted the process again, right?
Yep.
And gone right through from the EHLP onto the EHL and then on to college hockey. So as I mentioned, this is the 87's episode this week. Next week is that episode. Oh, I need to read the lineup. Duh. The forward unit for the 87's: Tim Debord, Dante Terramani, Zach Tarantino, Jack Lane, Andrew Maynard, Matt Belinsky, Kay Yasuda, Nick Swain, Jack Mcdonough, Trent Shanley, Brian Van Ness, and Michael Hertzberg. Defensive core of Trevor Sear, George Weiner, Justin Vickers, Dylan Gutierrez, Matt Herrick, Ben Pfeiffer. God, we got to figure that out.
Because he's a good player.
Jacob Crespo, Ian Greif, and John Kopak. And that's the team, man. It's an awesome team. And I think it's a perfect ending to all the teams of the week from this summer. As I mentioned, we have those all-time lineups next week. And then the following week, the season preview. It's crazy. Let's go, baby. It's around the corner. So we'll talk to you next week. The best
for last, episode 87, the 87s. That was pretty
well. They also wanted to do it when their training camp was started. And I was like, I also love symmetry. So 87th episode, New Jersey 87s. There's no other team in the league that has a numeral as their team name. So I think it just fit perfectly.
We love controversy too, so maybe we did save the best for last, or maybe we didn't. I don't know. That's for all of you at home to decide.
We'll do a poll. We'll do it.
Love it. Stir that pot, baby. Stir it pot, baby.
All right, I'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. See you, Neil.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.